All right. Good morning. Let's go ahead and get started. So grab anything that you need. Your blankets, pillows, blocks, water, anything like that. And we will get started in a seated position. So legs are crossed, sitting up nice and tall. So again, if you want to sit yourself up on a block, and you have that option or that pillow, so kind of elevates the hips. So it's a little bit more comfortable on the hips and on the knees if you want that option. So just close down those eyes, rest those palms right on those knees, roll those shoulders down and back, just lifting through the chest, closing down those eyes. And just breathing in and out through the nose. And just nice and natural with that breath. Just noticing that rise and fall of the chest. You know, focusing that breath a little bit lower, trying to go into that lowest part of the lungs. That belly will expand. Big breath in. And exhale it out. Big breath in. And exhale it out. Slowing down that exhale so it's just as long as that inhale. A couple more like these. Let's reach those fingertips out to the sides. We'll flip those palms, so reach those arms, so even back maybe a little bit, and then up. So a little stretch through those shoulders, those arms, palms meet, and then just bring those hands right back down to heart center, making that circle. So go out and around, reach up nice and tall. Exhale those hands down. Last time, reach it out nice and tall. Good. Now exhale, we'll find that twist over to that right side. So stay nice and tall on that inhale. Exhale, twist. Inhale, bring it back to center. Reach it up and exhale it over to the other side. Good. Bring it back to center, hands on the knees, just rounding that spine, rolling it back. So really tuck that chin. Feel that stretch in between the shoulder blades. And then inhale, we'll bring it forward and flattening out that back. Do that 2 more times, rounding the spine, rolling it back. So stretching through that upper back. And then we'll bring it forward and up. Last time, round it back. Good, now bring it forward, hovering that chest right over those shins. Maybe walk those hands forward, stretching out through those outer hips. And then we'll walk it back, sitting tall. Just go ahead and switch that cross of the legs. Again, reaching those arms up. We'll go a couple times through this, just stretching out through the upper back, through the shoulders. Hands come down, making that big circle, reaching out and up. And bring those hands back down. Good, last time, reaching those arms up. Let's twist it again over to that right side, sitting tall on that inhale. Exhale, deeper into that twist. Bring it back to center, reach it up tall. And exhale, twist it to the other side. And bring it back to center. Just bringing those hands on the knees, rounding that spine, rolling it back. Inhale, forward and up. Exhale, round it back. Inhale, bring it forward. One more time, round it on back. Big stretch. Lean it back as much as you can. And then bring it forward, flattening out that back as we walk those hands forward. Keeping that nice flat back, grounding through those hips. Good, then we'll walk those hands back. Go and plant those hands. Let's come on to those hands and knees. So just stack those hands right underneath the shoulders. Knees are right underneath the hips. On that inhale, drop the belly, lift the chest, lift the tailbone as we look up. Exhale, round that spine. Draw that belly up and in as we look towards those thighs. Inhale, drop the belly, lift the chest, lift the tailbone, look up. Exhale, round. Again, inhale, lift and lengthen. And exhale, round. With that really rounded spine, just go ahead and press those hips back to the heels. So keep those knees still about hip distance apart. But just bring it back up. Now we'll walk those hands forward, spreading those fingers out wide, pressing into those palms. Pull those forearms towards each other as we soften that forehead, or maybe even the chin down towards the mat. So bigger stretch through that upper back, maybe into those shoulders. Now let's bring it forward to our forearm plank. So we can just step those feet back. So we can be on the toes or we can be on those knees, just warming up through that core. Really strong through those legs. Just looking down towards your thumbs so your neck is neutral. For 3 and 2 and 1. Lower those hips down into that Sphinx pose. Point those toes, draw those elbows back as we lift up through the crown of the head. So we're not gazing up. You tuck your chin just slightly so that gaze is kind of angling down. My gaze is towards my top edge of the mat, but it can be kind of around where the fingertips are. And then we'll soften it down. Bring those hands right underneath the shoulders. Come up onto those hands and knees. Stay. Inhale, drop the belly, lift the chest, lift the tailbone. Exhale, round. With that rounded spine, go ahead and press it back into that child's pose. And then bring it back up. Flattening out that back, walking those hands forward, spreading those fingers out as we soften that forehead down. Really active through those arms. And then lower those forearms down as we shift it forward to our plank. Okay, dropping those hips down, point the toes, drawing the elbows back, lift up through the top of the head. And then we'll soften it down, press it back up onto our hands and knees. One more time through this. Drop the belly, lift the chest, lift the tailbone, look up. Exhale, round. Sending it back to that child's pose. Pause it for a breath. And then inhale, bring it on up. Flatten the back out, walking those hands forward. Melt that head and chest down. Lower onto the forearms, shifting it forward to our plank. Lowering those hips down, point the toes. Draw those elbows back as we look up. Reach up through the crown of the head. And then soften it back. This time, we can go a little wider with those knees, sending those hips back to the heels. So more of a normal child's pose, if your child's pose is a little bit wider. With the knees, reaching the arms forward, just relax the head, reconnecting with that breath. So then go ahead and come back onto those hands and knees. Go and step the feet back to our plank. So we'll be on our hands this time. And take another breath. And then send those hips up and back into our first down dog. Take your time here. Pedal those feet, sway those hips. Whatever you feel like you need. Sending that big stretch through the calves, through the hamstrings. The thing is here is we try to press that heel down towards the mat. We want to bend into that other knee. It helps to keep our back nice and flat. A lot of times we just press those heels down, we round through that spine. So we want that nice flat back, that inverted V shape. So the back is nice and flat. That tailbone is pointing up towards the ceiling. The belly is pressing back towards those thighs. As we press the belly back towards the thighs, we want to be stable through those shoulders. So press into the palms. Think pulling the forearms towards each other. Yes, we want those shoulders to be nice and stable. Press the heels down a little bit more without changing anything in your back. And then we'll inhale on the toes. Bend into those knees. Let's step those feet to the top of the back. Sliding those hands up the shins into that half lift. So nice flat back. And slide those hands down as we fold. And bending into those knees. Let's go ahead and rise all the way up to standing. Reach it up nice and tall. And we'll interlace those fingers. Let's bend it over. Bend it over to that right side. And inhale, bring it back up. And exhale it over to that other side. And inhale, reach it back up, reaching up and back, pressing those hips forward. And exhale, fold. And inhale, finding that half lift. And exhale, we'll plant those hands down, stepping those feet back to our plank. So this could be on the toes or done on the knees. Shift it forward, lower down. And inhale, lift. And exhale, sending those hips up and back. Downward facing dog. And then we'll inhale on the toes. Bend those knees, step those feet, top of the mat. Inhaling that half lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, we'll rise. Interlacing those fingers, we'll bend it over to that right side. Inhale it back up. Exhale it to the left. Inhale, reach it back up. And exhale, fold. Flat back on that inhale. And exhale, plant those hands. Stepping those feet back to our plank. Lowering it down. Inhale, lift. And exhaling those hips up to the sky. Downward facing dog. One more time through. And inhaling on the toes. Bend those knees, step those feet up. Finding that flat back. And fold. Inhale, rise. And exhale, side stretch over to the right. Inhale it up to the left. Inhale it back up. And exhale, fold. Flatten out that back. And plant those hands, stepping those feet back to our plank. Lower down. Inhale, lift. And exhaling those hips up and back, downward facing dog. And now from here, go ahead and step that right foot through. Let's go ahead and ground that back heel down. So we're gonna rise up into a warrior one. So the back heel is down, the toes are turned out just slightly, reaching those arms up. So squaring off those hips, that right hip is pulling back, left hip is pulling forward, bending into that front knee. And now we'll interlace those fingers behind the back. Open up through that chest. Let's just pause it here. Let those shoulders release, open up. And a little deeper into that front knee, keeping that core tight. And then we'll release those arms up, straighten that front leg as we reach the arms forward. See how my back stays nice and flat, my hips stay nice and level, and then lower the hands down to the shin, the ankle, into our pyramid pose. And every bend into that knee, reach those arms back up. And lower the hands down to the mat. Step it back, downward facing dog. And we'll go to the other side. We'll step that left foot through to that left thumb. Back heel lowers down. So you want a pretty long stance, but not too long that we can't get this back heel down. Okay, if you notice that you're kind of like this with the heel lifted, just take maybe a couple inches, step in, and then pull that right hip forward, left hip back, arms are reaching up. Then now we'll draw those elbows down, interlacing those fingers behind the back. Again, just holding it here, finding that nice stretch through the shoulders. And then we'll release those arms up, straighten that front leg, keep those hips square. So think hip bones are pointing straight forward, and then we'll lower the hands down to the shin, the ankle, and maybe all the way down to the ground. Keeping that, the hips and the sacrum nice and flat, nice and level. Try and flatten out that low back a little bit more, hinging from those hips. Feel that nice big stretch through that left hamstring. Good, now we bend, reaching those arms back up into that warrior one. And lower the hands down to the mat. Go ahead and step it back to our down dog. And back to the other side. We're gonna bring that right foot again through to that right thumb. Back heel down, inhaling those arms up. Drawing those arms down behind the back, interlacing the fingers, open up through the chest. This time we're gonna fold it forward. So we're gonna get to that humble warrior. So maybe you just hover that chest. Maybe that rib cage comes to that inner thigh. Maybe that shoulder works its way all the way down to the knee. And keeping that nice long spine. Good, now release the hands, come back up, straighten that front leg. Hips stay square to the front of the mat as we fold it forward. And now we bend into that knee, reaching those arms up. And lower those hands down, stepping that foot back, down dog. And we'll go to the other side. Step that left foot through, back heel grounds down. Inhaling the arms up. Now interlace those fingers behind the back. Open up through that chest. And exhale, fold. Stay with that breath. Notice if the hips are swaying out to the left side. Pull them back towards the midline of the mat. Keep that nice long spine. And then inhale, release those hands. Rise back up, straighten that front leg, and then fold it forward. And now we bend into that knee. Reach those arms up. And lower those hands down. Go ahead and step it back. We'll move through a vinyasa this time. So get those shoulders right over those fingertips as we lower. Inhale, lift. And exhale, we'll send those hips up and back. Downward facing dog. Let's go ahead and make your way onto your backs. So you can step or those feet up, or maybe just sit on down, no right or wrong way. Let's go ahead and roll it on down. We're gonna cross that right ankle over that left thigh, flexing that right foot. So we want the spine nice and flat. So starting with your tailbone, make sure it's grounded down. And then from there, we're gonna start to hug that knee in. So when we hug, I don't know if you guys are gonna be able to see this, but we don't want that tailbone lifting way up off of the ground. It's not gonna feel great on your spine. You'll feel that the spine is, I guess the processes, I don't know, we're digging into the mat. But when we ground that tailbone down, we walk those shoulder blades together, lifting through that chest, those vertebrae start to lift. It feels a lot more comfortable on your back. You get a nice big stretch through that right outer hip. And go ahead and lower that foot down. Tee out those arms, and then we'll just drop the knees over to that right side, keeping that core tight. Let's bring it back up. Go ahead and switch sides. And then tailbone down first. Walk those shoulder blades together. Kind of get set up here. And then you just hug that right knee in, grabbing onto that right hamstring, flexing that left foot. So depending on how those hips are feeling, you might find that you can grab onto that shin and still keep that same positioning with the back. This gives you a little deeper stretch. And again, to grab onto the shin, if you really have to start to round the back, just take it easy. Grab onto the hamstrings. It's early. The body may not be feeling super loose. And then go ahead, lower that foot down. Tee out those arms and just drop the knees over to that left side, keeping that core tight. And bring it back to center. Then uncross that leg, hugging both knees into the chest. Let's rock it forward and back. Let's come up to that seat. Legs crossed, sitting up nice and tall. Let's keep those eyes closed, palms resting on your knees. Let's take a couple of final breaths here of this practice, just to be in this space. Finding that calm before you start the day. And just feeling that rise and fall of the chest, of the belly. Keeping those eyes open. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Have a great rest of your day. I believe there is boot camp this afternoon, or weights class this afternoon. I'm teaching it at. Let me get the time right today. It is at 4:30. So hopefully I see you all there. And you don't need to have weights. You can just use kind of objects around the house. So don't get intimidated by the weights aspect of it, because you can make most of the exercises body weight. All right, thanks guys. Have a good one.